evening. Welcome to Soul to Elements, a series which looks at the importance of developing good mental and emotional health, especially as it relates to our spiritual walk. Tonight, it's going to be like Outward Bound for your mind. Come on. We're going to be looking at the importance of guarding your identity and building a healthy sense of self. But first, it's time for a story. When my friend Israel decided to turn 25, he decided to throw this great big party. And he thought it would be fun, being his 25th party, to hire a bouncy castle. And yeah, come on. Blew up the bouncy castle, and we basically spent the next 6 hours playing bull rush on the bouncy castle, which was fantastic. But as the evening went on, we thought, we'll play some backyard cricket instead. And at one point, I managed to hit the ball straight into the outdoor light, which smashed, but it's okay because it wasn't quite dark yet. However, when it did become dark, it was pitch black. We couldn't see anything in the backyard, which of course made it more fun on the bouncy castle. But eventually, when we got sick and tired and cold of that and very hungry, we all made our way over to the glowing embers of the spit roast. We couldn't see much, but we could taste a lot as we took our knives and forks and cut off slices of this lamb. Well, after some time of eating, standing around, joking, couldn't really see each other, the lamb kind of got chewier and chewier, and chewier and chewier, and less hot, warmer and warmer. And eventually some bright spark decided to run a halogen lamp around the back of the property. And they flicked it on, and in an instant, the whole backyard just lit up. And we found ourselves in a horror scene. Israel, his friends, and I had been eating raw lamb for some time. And so we had blood on our faces, blood on our t-shirts, blood on our hands. Now, the first thing I'd like to do is apologise to the vegetarians in the room. There are toilets out the back if you want to vomit. Secondly, I want to point out the obvious, that in the pitch black, in the darkness, it's very hard to work out what you're doing. That's true in backyards at cool parties, but it's also true when it comes to our identity and our self-worth. If we don't have the light, if we don't have a reference point, pretty much we just stumble along and we're going to make mistakes. And so without a reference point, we just end up trusting the people around us. We trust whatever they say. And that could be positive, that could be negative. As people label us and tell us what we're worth, we've got to work out, man, is it true or not? What is one positive label you've been given that you would like to grow into? One thing someone said to you that you thought, yeah, okay, cool, that could be me. And why is that? Turn to the people around you and discuss for 5 minutes. Go for it.
Well, it was a label that I was given when I was quite a bit younger. I was actually a teacher of mine who said to me, Luke, today you have been leader of you, and in years to come, you'll be a leader of many. And that's something that I've always held on to since I was really young. And there's been times when I've actually thought, awesome, this is my time, that I'm being a leader of many. And I've pushed it really hard and I've given it an awesome go. And it's something that I've always held on to because I've always, like still now, I think, when is that time going to come? And I trust in my skills and abilities and the skills of those around me. And I push hard into that and I lead well and I give it the best chance that I can, the best push that I can to be that leader that someone's spoken to me when I was really young, and I look forward to doing that as I get older.
It's amazing, I think, just how much power other people's words can have over our life. It's no wonder that the Bible talks about the tongue as if it has the power of life and death, that with the tongue we can bless and we can curse. In psychology, the term labeling means that we can pick up and adopt other people's views about us. The first way that a label affects us is when we just believe that it's entirely true. For example, if a significant person to you or a group of people that aren't that significant kept on telling you the same message, you may well just give in to that. An example would be if a whole lot of people said that you're a failure. Eventually you'd just be like, right, I am. If even one significant person like a teacher said, you can't succeed, you are a failure, or a parent, then there's every chance you'll wear that. You think, well, if I'm a failure, then resistance is futile. I just simply am, so what's the point in trying? This happened exactly to me. You know, I went to a school, which I've told you about, was pretty rugged. And in the very first couple of weeks of high school, we got given a homework assignment. We were to write a short story, and I thought, right, I'm going to do my very best at this story. I'm going to throw myself at it. I hadn't done that well at school prior to that, and so I thought, right, I'm going to do everything I can to get the best grade possible in this short story. Well, when my grade came back from the teacher, it said 0 out of 20. My English teacher had taken off half a mark for every spelling mistake. Now, I'd like you to know my spelling's still atrocious. And that's kind of what happens. I understood that this was me. That the message I got from my English teacher was you can't succeed even if you try your best. Even if you throw everything at it, the result will be 0 out of 20. And so I never really learnt. You know, I can sit there on a computer nowadays, I'll be typing away a Word document and look up on the screen and they'll just be like covered in little worms, you know, they get those red squiggly lines under all the spelling mistakes, and then you right click and it just says, no suggestions. So, what? Really? Because I did my best. And so labels hold us back because we think, man, that's me and I can't change. That's not the only way that labels hold us back though. You know, because I thought, I cannot change, I'm not cut out to be here, to be at school, I'm going to fail. I actually immediately, and this is within really the first month of high school, decided that I needed to look elsewhere in life to succeed. And so I thought, what can I do for a job? Well, a lot of my teachers, and certainly a lot of the students as well around me, kept calling me a bit of a clown. And that was, I guess, my nickname in high school. You're a bit of a clown, Matt. Matt, you're a clown, you're a joker, you're a clown. And so eventually, a few years into high school, I thought, you know what? I should just leave school and become a clown. Now, I know this sounds ridiculous and completely fabricated, but I assure you it's true. I left school early to become a clown. Now, I am not recommending that any of you do this. If you're at uni or in high school, don't leave school to become a clown. For a couple of reasons. It's very difficult living, being a clown. Kids will beat you up if they see you, some kids. Plus, to be honest, we don't need that many clowns in society. Like if you all became clowns, it probably wouldn't work. We don't need like 2 million clowns in the country, although that would solve a lot of our public transport issues because, well, you can get a lot of clowns into a small vehicle. Imagine how many you can get on a bus or a train. So the first way that labels really stuff us up is that we grow into them, we believe they're true. The second way that labels massively affect us is that sometimes we believe they're not true. And in fact, we go so far in the opposite direction that we overcompensate. We say, I don't want this thing to be true, and so I'll massively do the opposite. And so if you were labelled, say, ugly as a child by someone significant, or by enough people who weren't significant, just strangers, then there's every chance you will spend a life avoiding that label and running from it. You will spend money and resource and time and effort trying to prove to the world that this label doesn't fit you. And so you massively overcompensate. Anyway, to talk more about labels and effectively how to get rid of them, here's Belinda.
Labels are a big problem in psychology because we all end up with them. Some labels are positive and healthy and we like them, although even those labels can cause us issues. I worked with a client recently who was labelled brainy at school because she was really good at maths and English. And so what she did was she stopped learning. She started acting like she was less intelligent than she was because that label in her mind was too uncool. Most often the reason labels cause us issues is because they're negative. They're unhealthy, they're untrue, they hold us back in some way. So I've had far more clients who were labelled stupid or thick or unintelligent or not smart as a kid, and so then they struggle academically because they believe that about themselves and they stop trying, they give up. If you've been labelled things like vain, show off, useless, ugly, unwanted, unwelcome, naughty, things like that, that can really affect how you see yourself. It can have a huge impact on how you relate to other people. It can mean that you're afraid to be vulnerable because you think you'll be rejected. Sometimes what it can do actually is you can end up overcompensating. So if you get labelled ugly, you might spend a lot of time and effort and money on trying to look as attractive as possible to get rid of that label. Another big problem that can arise from labels is that when you get labelled something as a kid, over time it can become such a strong part of your identity that you don't even think about it anymore. So you live like it's true, it's become part of who you believe you are, and you don't think about it because it's in your subconscious. Let's imagine that you were labelled unlovable as a kid. What happens when you're older and you fall in love and the person says to you, I love you, I think you're amazing? Because you have a subconscious belief that says I'm not lovable, you're going to struggle to believe that. It wouldn't matter what they said, it wouldn't matter what they did. Even if all the evidence was in front of you saying they love me, you will not believe it if your subconscious has a different idea. And so this is what happens when our conscious mind and our subconscious believe something different. Your subconscious is going to win every time. As a counsellor, when someone comes to see me, there are 3 things I'm going to do with them to help them ditch those things about themselves that are not healthy. Firstly, I'm going to find out what they are believing about themselves. What are the labels that are defining them? And actually, where did they even come from? Who started calling them those things and what circumstances? The second thing we're going to do is we are going to start challenging them. We are going to argue with them, disagree with them, the ones that are unhealthy. We are going to ask questions like, where's the proof that this is true? What do my current friends think? Would they agree with this? How about the people that know me really well, like teachers or family members? Would they agree? And why am I even believing what this one person said about me all those years ago? The third thing we're going to do is we are going to replace those unhealthy beliefs with some good, positive messages about themselves. So they're going to start saying things like, actually, you know what? I can do this academic thing. I can put my mind to it and get help and I can do it. Or, actually, I'm a really good friend. I've got all these friends that say that I'm loyal and trustworthy. I am a good friend. So they're going to start relabeling themselves. And I guess the great thing is, even if you look at a negative label and you think, actually, it is a bit true, maybe because you've grown into it, because you've been labelled it for such a long time, the good thing is you can still change it. You can still become a different person. Once you're aware of this concept of labelling, you can be on guard against them forming in yourself or others. Our son Jasper, when he was 4 years old, he came home from preschool one day a bit sad. And after a while he said to me, Mummy, my friend Molly said that I'm boring. Because I understand this concept of labels, I knew that if we didn't talk with him about it, he could start to believe it about himself. It could become part of his identity. So we spent a couple of hours discussing with him whether he actually was boring or not and convincing him that he actually isn't. And the cool thing is that not only does Jasper never say that about himself now, he actually thinks he's kind of fun, which he is.
All right, so hopefully by now you're piecing it together, you're getting it. Labels, the idea of it in psychology, it is the messages we take on from other people. And these can have tremendous sway in our lives. It's worth the time standing back and saying, how are these labels affecting me? What are they? Who gave me them? And are they true? And so my question for you to discuss in your groups is this one. What is one message you've been given about yourself that simply is not true? It might be one you're overcompensating for or one you've grown into. Go for it.
Every year in year 10, a group of boys told me I was stupid and that I sucked. And I honestly believe that's about myself, even when I was at university doing really well, got a postgraduate diploma, still believed I was stupid. And it was absolutely ridiculous. And I knew it wasn't true, but I still believed it. And so I had to do a whole bunch of stuff to tell myself I wasn't stupid, and graduated and wore that cap and was like, actually, I'm really smart.
Well, when I was at high school, everyone that I knew was saying all sorts of things to me, and I got a basic message that my identity is all about what other people think of me, which just simply wasn't true. And then I spent all my high school years trying to live that out and to get other people to accept me because I just wanted them to think I was awesome. And eventually I realised that identity comes from God.
Part of the challenge of following Jesus is this, is we know when we read in the Bible, we know it says, that we are God's beloved children. And we know that he loves us so much that he literally died for us. So we know that truth here, but we still walk around inside here feeling crud. And the question is, how do you take this head knowledge and put it into your heart? And I think over the years, I think I've probably found different ways of taking it from here to here. One way I take it from here to here as a young person is surrounding myself with people who can see the beauty of God in each other and therefore can tell me again and again how God really sees it. So although I may feel crud, these people can constantly say, hey, God's made you amazing. You're a great person. You've got these great gifts. And so where sometimes I don't have the confidence to say that, I can surround myself with people who can and constantly remind us. So that's one thing we can do. Second thing I think we can do is take the time to do what we're really good at. So don't focus on the stuff that you're crud at. Start learning to focus on the good stuff. That's another way I started to realise who God, take the head stuff of what I know about God into my heart. Another way is I just sometimes, especially as I got older, I would just spend time literally just praying to God and letting God remind me how much he loved me. And so I just spend time praying, praying that loving God would have mercy on my life, would heal and transform my life, and just spending time reflecting and thinking of how much God loves me. So just putting aside a few minutes a day where I actually could just, sit in that. That's made a huge difference, take it from here to here. Other things that I think have made a difference is, I think, realising that it's not about me, that as I choose to give my life away, as I choose to love other people, I actually start to realise that God loves me. It's interesting, was it say, love your neighbour as yourself? Now, most of us don't love ourselves, so we're pretty stuffed on that one. But I think the flip side is, if you love your neighbour, you start to love yourself. And I think there's a real good truth there. So if we want to learn to know how much God really loves us and start to move beyond feeling cruddy about ourselves, start to love other people. Start to find some people to care for.
Well, once again, I hope and pray that you've found something worthwhile. Whether it was something I said, my wife Belinda, or Bishop Justin Duckworth. I hope that something jumped out at you, something relevant, something useful for your life, something you can even pass on to others. The one challenge I'd leave you with tonight is that there is a tremendous power in the labels we give each other. Hey, thanks for listening. All the best.